Hello, this is Scott Churchson and Obie Spencer from the Sports Den, and welcome to Stranglers World Network on Zingo TV 249 and 250. Kindly remember to download the Zingo TV app on the app stores of iOS and Android. When you download, make sure to rate and leave a comment. Both apps are free, so I promise you cannot beat the price. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV sticks, Roku, Roku sticks, and all smart TVs 2016 and forward. Joining us today, as I had mentioned, Mr. Obie Spencer. Mr. J.D. Walker will be on forthwith. But, sir, how you doing, man?
I am great. I'm absolutely ecstatic for today's show. We're going to talk about some things that are not so exciting, and that's exciting in and of themselves. And when we get there, people will understand the gibberish of which I speak.
Yes. We'll be talking about that thing involving those people that you have heard and that sport you're familiar with. So we got this really narrowed down to a science. But no, in all seriousness, we're talking World Series and why, frankly, nobody gives a crap. Maybe a little bit of talk about the NFL. Thursday Night Football upcoming is going to be big. Monday Night Football last night should have been big, but it kind of was not. We'll also probably throw in a little hockey, maybe a little b-ball. We got a whole bunch of things on the horizon. But first, I want to talk World Series because that's happening tonight. And frankly, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think anybody really cares.
I can't say you're wrong. I think it's baseball started off these playoffs with a chance of bringing the fans in the seats. They started with this one game, Boston, New York playing game, which they call a playoff game, which got eyes on television shows. And then that was it. The bigger the market, the harder the fall. They had San Francisco and LA. Okay, they pair them up in the first round, and now they get the full 5 games. LA goes on, loses out. You still had Boston left. Hello, Houston. Houston is not a small city, and it's actually bigger, I believe, than Boston, but not as a baseball town. Yankees fans would love to watch Boston lose. They probably don't want to see Houston win, but they're not going to take their eye power to that, I don't believe. So this is going to be as unwatched a World Series as we've had in recent years, which is a problem because they've been unwatched.
Well, I've got 5 things in regards to why I personally think not only is this going to be the lowest rated World Series in history, personally, I think the average draw is going to drop below 8 million for the first time. Now, to give an idea, last year was the first time in MLB World Series history that there were games that actually were underneath 5 million. I'm sorry, underneath 9 million, correction. There was an 8.5 million viewer game and also an 8.1. My take this year is I think the average, not the low, but the average is going to drop down to probably about 7.9, 7.8. I got a few reasons for that. First of all, you're dealing with 2 markets that are not, frankly, big sports markets. Right now, Atlanta is 7th overall in the country. Houston is 8th overall. Last year, you did have the David and Goliath story. You had the Dodgers with a chance to get their first World Series in 30 years. Going up against a tiny little David team, a team that most people never, by logic, should ever give a chance to. But statistically speaking, the Tampa Bay Rays every single year are in there and competing, even though the fan base isn't there. But you had that David and Goliath story there. You had big names that you can work with when it came to both teams. And you had a gigantic, colossal market in LA. This year, right now, you have Atlanta and you have Houston. These are mid-sized markets, so you're not going to be drawing the local fan base. Number 2, and speaking as a Yankee fan, there's really no hate for Houston anymore. What happened in 2017, I think time heals all wounds for the most part. And you're looking at a team right now that, frankly, I think people are tired of hearing about it. They want to see they don't really care anymore. It was good for baseball in its time. Now it's basically just endless whining. If you complain about something that happened 4 years ago. Before I go on to the rest of them there, do you have any thoughts on the first 2, though?
I don't know about the average. I'm not going to try to take that guess, but I do want to do something for you. Take something you said. The LA market is 5.1 million people. The Houston and Atlanta market combined for 4.5. So when people hear, like you throw out numbers, 7th and 8th biggest, that sounds like a lot. But there's like huge gaps between the first, the second, and then the third. It's just, that needs to be made clear to people. Put those in the numbers they can understand. These two added together are smaller than LA. So that's a huge problem for the TV ratings. So I don't disagree with you. I think both those things are 100% right. Yankee fans don't hate Houston as much as they probably did at the beginning of the season. I think it's sort of worn off. I think getting here to the World Series kind of says to the world, we may have cheated, but we didn't cheat you. We were the best team. And I think that kind of is being said and being seen. So I think, that hate's gone. Atlanta, I think it's a city that is sort of sick of its Braves, has been for a while. They were sick of them when they were the best team in baseball for years, and constantly losing out. And now they're kind of done. Maybe I'm wrong. I just hear Atlanta fans all the time. Whenever I see them, they are the non-believingest fans out there. And any belief they had left was taken by Tom Brady from them. So, whether it's baseball or basketball or football, I'm sure they have zero faith in Trae Young, too, when it comes down to it. So, and outsiders are watching.
Also, I think from a different perspective, you have two teams that are really, at this point, too far south. So you're dealing with two teams, like I said, that have no national cover. You look at last night's Monday Night Football game. You had a team from the Southeast and a team from the Northwest. So you covered large portions of the country by travel here. Here, you've got two teams that, frankly, are not that far apart. A couple hours by flight, maybe, but also so far down to the south that anybody above, I don't know. I mean, I would say the Carolinas would automatically lose interest because, geographically speaking, there's nobody in your neighborhood. There's nobody in your vicinity. The same problem happened with Yankees Mets. We were talking about that game earlier, or that series in 2000 earlier today, you and I. It never mattered to anybody outside that area. I knew people that were in Virginia and other parts of the country that were fans of the Yankees and Mets, respectively. The games weren't on because it was so tight-knit to this tri-state area that the rest of the country, frankly, didn't give a crap. So as a result, that same issue is happening here, where you have two teams so far to the south that anybody north, nobody cares about it. So there's two. I mentioned this one earlier also. There's no massive big name draws. When you look at both teams, what do you got? Altuve? Who arguably would be what's that?
Freddie Freeman.
Okay, Freddie Freeman. But does the main average, I'm going to say not the hardcore sports fan, but does the casual fan know who that is? Are they, who is there at a level of, I was going to say Max Scherzer, but I'm going to say like an Aaron Judge or something like that. Outside of somebody like Altuve who has some sort of name recognition, to the casual fan, they probably wouldn't really recognize any of the players that are there. Last year, they hyped up the Randy Arozarena story big time because the man put on 15 pounds of muscle while having COVID. Joe Buck loved to talk about the fact that man was doing 500 push-ups a day, which respect to the fact that you can do that. But it was a good feel-good story for the David and Goliath part. There is no big name person really that the casual fan would be able to know much about.
So I don't disagree with you. I have the only disagreement I have with what you said there, and I'm going to point it out again, is I think people who know Altuve know Freddie Freeman. That being said, I don't know who knows either of them. This is the eternal problem of baseball that is older than the newer problems. Is baseball's ability to get the best players into the World Series is as old as the game itself. So they don't get big stars in, and that's going to hurt when you don't get big cities in. Mm-hmm. I think the biggest name in baseball is obviously Shoney out in Anaheim, bigger than anyone on the Yankees, bigger than anyone on the Dodgers. Didn't even have a chance. I mean, the guys who we know on the Yankees and the Dodgers, Mookie Betts or Aaron Judge. I don't know how much we know them because of how good they are, because of what teams they're on. So those two things go hand in hand. But your point in itself, totally agree with. There is no big name on either of these rosters who, if you're not a baseball fan already, you are going to have heard in your common day walking around. You don't know who these guys are.
And I think Altuve, part of the reason there's two reasons I think people know Altuve. One, because the man's 5'7" and still puts up the numbers he does, respect. But also because he was one of the big names in 2017. Now, again, as we've already established, there is no more 2017. That's too far rearview mirror. So you've got a guy who's just a guy, who's 5'7", leading off, putting up numbers that he is. But again, is not somebody that is so massively name recognition that if you saw him by face, you'd be like, all right, that guy. I think baseball has struggled with that a little bit the last few years anyway, where you didn't have a face that you could recognize. Derek Jeter is an example. People recognize Derek Jeter. They didn't know much about his stats, but the average person pretty much anywhere around the world could look and say, okay, that's Derek Jeter. You don't have that with baseball right now, and you especially don't have it with these two teams. So the casual fan anywhere on the globe will be like, yeah, I don't care. Number 4, and we've mentioned this one ad nauseum, the horse is not only dead, but we've pretty much broken it down to the bones itself only. These games are long, and then number 5, a late start as well. So the ratings aren't there because this game is starting at 8 o'clock. It's not going to be ending until midnight. Who knows, even 1 a.m. And as a result, it loses a lot of the fan base just because of the fact that you can't stay up for it. Monday Night Football last night ended a little after 11 o'clock. That's a little rough, but it's still a hell of a lot better than midnight, 1 a.m., or God help you later. And welcome, JD. How are you, man?
Yes, on here after some technical difficulties.
Sorry, I was actually looking at my notes, so I didn't actually see it. I don't know what time you came on. I was actually just looking at what I had.
Yeah. With this matchup and just with baseball in general, there's not many just diehard baseball fans left. There's people that are fans of their teams, and that's about it.
Yeah. Yeah, we covered a few things in that. The average age of a baseball fan in the United States is 57. Soccer is 40. Basketball is 42. So if you get some idea, and 57 years old, the next closest one is NASCAR at 56, and then golf is 64. So the average kid fan is not there anymore. I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm cutting you off too much.
Yeah, and the only reason that with the Braves, I know, Obie, you mentioned just Atlanta's futility in general in sports. Going back to most recently, you even have the 28-3 game with the comeback with the Falcons. Multiple Braves collapses, the infield fly game, giving up a 3-1 lead in the NLCS last year, getting only one World Series out of one of the all-time great teams. Somehow only won one World Series in the 90s. It is hard to get. It's hard to get excited for this. And of course, we already know about Houston. With people know Houston for the wrong reasons.
But are people still passionately involved with what happened in 2017, or do you think by and large most of them have let it go now?
I think the average sports fan doesn't care anymore. The average baseball fan is disgusted. The ones that are still left, and the average fan, unless you're in those cities or unless you're fans of these teams, it barely moves the needle.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm curious to see. Let's see if game one's all right. So it'll be an off day Tuesday or Thursday rather, because I was wondering how bad the Thursday night game versus World Series head-to-head matchup will be, but that'll be the off day between games 2 and 3, I believe.
And then Friday's game 3.
And if the series makes it to Sunday night, we'll see then. Sunday Night Football will probably beat Game 5 of the World Series.
It probably will.
So
it won't even be close.
Yeah, the NFL baseball got lucky that they didn't schedule against the Thursday night game, because I don't think there will be a sports fan alive who would be choosing that baseball game over that football game. That football game is all eyes. If you're a sports fan, your eyes, and that's the game to watch. Like, who's not watching that game? That game's spectacular. We talked about that last night. So yeah, that's baseball got lucky. They probably got lucky on purpose, but.
And here's where it's also going to get very interesting. Sunday night, it's the Cowboys. So that Texas market is going to be divided a little bit between Cowboy Nation and Astro Nation. And that's going to divide a little bit of that, like I mentioned, eighth largest market in the country. I think personally, my guess, Texas will probably be more inclined to watch, the Houston game, but that's going to cut big into their own leagues, I think.
I don't think so. Nope. Because also Dallas aren't really Astros fans.
Yeah, Dallas or Texas Ranger fans, they are their own separate markets. They are very far apart. So I don't think the Dallas market is going to, for a second, think about watching a Houston baseball game. I just don't think so. I don't think it's on their agenda at all. It's not. Yeah.
But let's see that you got that, and then Monday night is Kansas City and the Giants. Neither market is going to give any kind of a poop about the World Series anyway.
Well, that would be Game 7 on Monday night, right?
No, probably Game 6.
Actually, I think it'd be it's an off night. I think.
You know what? Could be
on Monday.
Okay.
Because it's
then they would go back Tuesday,
Wednesday, off Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday would be 3, 4, 5 off Monday for a travel day, and then 6 and 7 Tuesday, Wednesday. So there won't be a Monday night matchup, but Sunday night that Dallas game will destroy Game 5 of the World Series.
Yeah, they're definitely on that.
I could imagine that Monday night game, the Monday night football game, because of the two teams that are playing, sounds good, but people are going to be watching that game. If there was another sporting event on, people's eyes might come off of that game. Because if it goes the way that I would imagine most people expect it, Kansas City get right type game, people would be willing to watch something else if they're especially that far along into the World Series. Oh, this is a perfect opportunity. I'm up anyway. I'm watching sports anyway. Let me see what's happening in the World Series because it's interesting. It's at Game 6. It's not, but that's not even happening. They don't have that opportunity. I was willing to see that there might be a chance they could get some viewers against that particular matchup, markets aside, but that's not going to happen. No. Yeah, this is This is a dreadful World Series matchup in a sport that is having that is dreadful as far as its numbers are concerned. As we've been talking about since I started joining the show about a year ago, this is what we talk about. Baseball is like it feels like the way we talk about it feels like it's a dying sport. Like we feel like it's not even getting 8 million people for the World Series, but it is.
That's what I predicted. I predicted 7.9 average.
So we will see.
Yeah.
Another thing to look at when it comes to TV ratings, Scott, this being in the business of total viewers versus what the industry would call viewers in the demo, 18 to 49. Those ratings won't even be close. Total viewers is essentially meaningless from a from a TV rating standpoint. It's what are the 18 to 49 demo numbers? Won't even be close.
Looking up last year, one of the games at October 27th, I don't know which game that was. Sixth and final game of the World Series, drew a 3.4 rating last year in the 18 to 49 market. 12.6 overall, but in that key demographic, 3 1/3. So,
as you just said, the average baseball fan is 57 years old, not in the demo.
I didn't even think about that from the demographic standpoint. Oh God. Yeah, I feel bad too. I feel like I'm piling on baseball for that too. But
baseball has done this to themselves. If there's, it's not like it's
feel bad anyway,
and it's not like it's happened overnight. I mean, Facebook memories is both good and awful at reminding me of things that I've written in past years. On X date, and I've been talking stuff about baseball for 10 plus years. This has been coming for a generation. You could go back to all of the work stoppages, and probably another work stoppage this December. Just if there's anything that baseball has proven themselves to be very good at over many decades now, it's shooting themselves in the foot.
Well, if the Star Trek universe has any logic to this, and any ability to predict. The last World Series will be about 2050 or 51, I think, specifically. That's possible right now, the way things are going.
Baseball has this work stoppage is very interesting for baseball because there is this decline that we're seeing in the ratings, which means that the ownerships are going to be saying legitimately to the players, we are getting less revenue from our number one revenue source.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to be looking just for some concessions to the players. The players are absolutely positively not going to be looking for that. So it's just time for them to sit down and figure out not just what's best for the players and the owners, but what's best for the game. But this is the most contentious labor, I think, of the big four. Hockey might be worse. Football and basketball definitely are not worse. So there is some issues here that are going to really have to be figured out amongst these folks, because here's where the owners sit. The owners are in it for a much longer haul than the players are.
Mm-hmm.
Like, honestly, the owners have to figure out what they want to do with this sport over the next 20 years to make it competitive, while most of the players are talking 5 years of their life, the 5 highest earnings years they're going to have in their entire life, so that's what they're going to maximize. And that's really what's going to have to come down to the boils. How are the owners going to work that out, that this is how we're going to change the sport? Because, we had that conversation. What would you change about baseball if you were the commissioner? I was like, I'd figure out how the game has to look in 20 years and slowly implement those changes so that they exist in 20 years. And that's, I think baseball has to start doing it. I don't know if they're on that path or if they're not. Like, we don't know. Like, even what gets leaked to ESPN or Fox or whatever, whoever we might know, does not really tell us whether the owners have a long-term plan for fixing this game or not and making it a better product. Or are they going to leave it as what it is? Like, okay, put the game on at 8 o'clock. See everyone turn the game off at 11:30 because it's bedtime.
When it's the 7th inning.
Yeah. I don't know who won. I'll check tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
The biggest change out of all of the changes possibly on the table that I think that baseball really should consider is permanently switching to 7-inning games.
That'd be a big help right there too.
Because that was some of the most fun baseball to see. Was the 7-inning doubleheader games, and it aligns nicely with shorter attention spans. The fact that pitchers can barely pitch for more than 4 or 5 innings anymore. And also fundamentally the game is played in a way now with where the analytics has been there for a while now, but it's taken over to a point where the average fan does not understand those numbers.
Mm-hmm.
You could go to a baseball game or watch a baseball game and turn your brain off for however many hours in the past. But now it feels like math class. Instead of it's one thing if you're just doing the traditional batting average, home runs, RBI. But when you're talking OPS, launch angles, and all this other stuff, a lot of people's eyes start to glaze over.
Hard hit balls against 7th-inning curveballs.
So the average person that isn't really into that and isn't into big numbers or math is just saying, all right, the heck with this.
So that part of it is the packaging, because the ESPN doesn't, and whoever else is broadcasting the game doesn't need to pay attention to that. They don't need to put that out there. So my guess is that those people who are hanging on and watching are interested in that, which might be a mistake. It may be time to let them go and do what football does, and instead maximize the ridiculous graphic packages, like the fish being thrown at the coach or the car being to New Orleans. Maybe, because that's going to get in a slightly younger crowd. Like, yeah, okay, it's funny, it's cute. Even if it's dumb, it's something to talk about versus launch angle. It sounds like the old economics commercial. Launch angle, exit,
Bueller, anyone. But all right, as we close this out, want to get your thoughts on this. Quick predictions. My take, I think Astros take it in 6. I'd rather see Atlanta win it, but I have been wrong with every single team that I have pulled for to win a series. I have been wrong on every single one of them. I will probably be wrong on this one as well. I'm rooting for Atlanta, but I'm calling it Houston in 6. JD?
I'm thinking the same. Houston in 6. I would love to see Atlanta win, but I don't see it. Houston is on a mission, and the one positive about that is that even for the people that are still upset over the trash cans and the cheating scandal, is at least Dusty Baker gets a World Series. So that's what I would be hanging my hat on as well.
And I just want to point this out real quick. Nobody realized that Dusty Baker won a World Series with the Dodgers in '81 and had a 19-year career of his own. I know him as a manager, but he had a sparkling baseball career.
Yeah, he was one of those Hall of very good, but not Hall of Fame type players. He played for a long time and put up good numbers, but just not Hall of Fame numbers. Dusty Baker and Tony La Russa have both been around so long that they were teammates on the Braves in, I believe, 1972. And when Dusty Baker finished his career playing for Tony La Russa in Oakland in, I think, 1987. That's how long that they've been around.
Same kind of thing happened with Jeter, Mariano, and Joe Girardi.
Yep.
So, Obie, how about you, man? Any thoughts? Anything different from what we got?
Nothing. I am not going to make a prediction in something I'm not going to watch it happen enough.
Okay. But you do predict a team will win, though.
I predict a team will win by winning 4 games before the other team can win 4 games.
And you're calling it now. It's a team from the South. It will not be one of the teams from the North.
Yes. That's what I'm calling. I'm calling it a baseball team from Houston or Atlanta.
Yeah. I'll watch some of it because it's the World Series.
May the best few win.
And if I don't have anything better to do.
Well, tonight the Devils are on, so I'll be watching that once I'm done with Tales from the Film Set. So that's, like I said, how little interest I have in the World Series now. What a sad time we're in. But anyway, about a half an hour in at this point. This is Sports Den. You can find us always on Twitter at SSW Sports Den and also on Facebook and Instagram at Spanglish World Sports Den. Want to move on to what is now America's pastime, talk a little football, because basically we had kind of a dull game last night that was strangely enthralling. The Giants won a game. The Jets, I'm sorry, did not. And I want to preview a little bit of what's coming this week because Thursday night, we got a big one. So, Obie, let me start off with you, man. What thoughts do you got if you got them?
My thoughts are that we are almost at the point where it's time to figure out who's going to win this thing, right? I mean, we're almost there. We're almost halfway through the season. You're probably halfway through your fantasy season if you're a fantasy football guy. But what I love about the NFL this year is that there are 4 or 5 teams in each conference that you can argue are going to go to the Super Bowl and not sound like an idiot doing it. And I think that is great. Absolutely spectacular for the game of football that they're having this kind of season right now, because that means that everybody's interested. Not just, my team can make the playoffs and maybe go on a run. Arizona, Green Bay, Dallas, Tampa in the NFC, and Los Angeles, 5 teams I can make a sound argument are going to going to the Super Bowl. Tennessee, Buffalo, Cincinnati, Baltimore, Chargers, and Kansas City. I mean, there's a little more give in that group. Like, I could hear some people saying some of those names are no good, but there is a lot going on, a lot of good teams at the top without a true powerhouse in each conference, and I'm loving every week because
I mean, with Arizona and Green Bay, you have arguably the top 2 teams in the NFC right now, and whoever wins that game has the inside track to a number 1 seed. It's rare to see that kind of. It's good to see that kind of a matchup in Week 8, let alone on a Thursday night, which was usually you get more duds than good games in those spots. But I'm looking forward to it. It also shows are either one of these teams for real? I mean, they are both for real. There are both playoff teams, but who has the inside track to Super Bowl?
I think right now, again, I've said it from the beginning, it goes through Tampa. You prove to me it's not Tom Brady until it's not Tom Brady.
Agreed.
My take.
And that's the thing. Your take is a solid take, and that, right? Because prove to me it's not Tom Brady. That I can't do.
Mm-hmm.
Kyler Murray's not ready. Well, a lot of times these teams win with these really young quarterbacks, and then they don't go back. I show you Russell Wilson. I just off the top of my head right now, Mahomes, one kind of young, hasn't got back, didn't win again. So
Aaron Rodgers, Joe Flacco.
Aaron Rodgers did it young, hasn't done it again. Dak, okay, he's middle-aged quarterback. He's never been believed in, but that offense right now is just ridiculous. They can beat you on the ground. They can beat you in the air. They found the second running back. So I'm not saying you're wrong that it goes through Tampa. I'm just saying there are so many options. And I haven't even talked about Stafford in that offense. So in 2 more weeks, we'll be at the halfway point. I'll make my prediction then. We will have this Green Bay Arizona game under our belt. I think Los Angeles gets another good game in those 2 weeks. So yeah, this is so wonderful. Then have this big Thursday night game to kind of sort things out. And Kyler Murray on the big stage on a game that's usually not a big stage game. Usually it sounds great, and then you want to know who's going to not make the playoffs, who made the playoffs last year? Look who's playing the big games on Thursday night. You go, oops, they're not going to make it. That looked like a good matchup. One of these teams is going to suck, and we're not having that with this game. This game is going to be all eyes on the TV.
And add to it the fact that Zach Ertz is now with them. He had 66 receiving yards and a touchdown in his first game with Arizona. So that gives another offensive weapon to Kyler Murray to be able to diversify the passing game a little bit, and in turn open up the running game a little bit more. Not to say he's going to continue to do that, but Zach Ertz is off to a really good start with that team.
Yeah, and with Ertz kind of hit a wall in Philly with injuries, and Dallas Goedert had surpassed him there. So he gets new life playing with Kyler Murray, a quarterback who can actually throw the ball more than 10 yards, unlike Jalen Hurts.
Or Jameis Winston had that problem last night.
Yeah.
No, I think that Zach Ertz, first of all, it is my belief he probably quietly asked to be traded. Went to work every day, which in Philly, if you want to get traded, we can respect that. Just still go to work every day. Maybe we'll get to that story. Maybe
don't put a cell phone in your pocket while doing it.
Right. So, and then he went out as a Philly guy. I mean, he went out on top. He went out thanking the team, complimenting the team, wearing Phillies stuff to the first practice, giving the ball he scores a touchdown to the Phillies fan. I mean, you talk about a guy who's playing the role of hired gun. He's happily doing it, and all the best to him doing it. What a slew of offensive weapons. AJ Green, granted he's not the same AJ Green, but he's there. Nuck is still performing. Rondell Moore looks like a future star. Quarterback off the charts. The running backs are serviceable guys, which is all you need in the NFL now. Yes, and give me more of that. And then Chandler Jones and J.J. Watt acting like they were young. So it looks a lot like Tampa did last year with just a young quarterback versus an old quarterback. Just something to keep in mind as we say Super Bowl goes through Tampa. Other than the young athletic quarterback, those teams have a lot in common.
Well, speaking of Philadelphia, they let go of a quarterback. They traded a quarterback and picked up a quarterback in the process. Now picking up actually Reed Sinnett from Miami, but letting Joe Flacco go. I mean, for you guys as Jets fans, I think it's a good pickup by Joe Flacco. They didn't give up much for him. I think he can be a good mentor for Zach Wilson, even while Zach is recovering from injury right now. But you're dealing with a Philadelphia team that, from their perspective, I wouldn't have made that move. But from a Jets perspective, I like it.
Philly also has Gardner Minshew on the bench as well.
Which also there's talk that he may be taking over.
there's talk for that, but I'll believe it. I'll believe it when I see it because they still for some reason think that Hurts is the hill to die on, even though he's shown absolutely nothing
Mhm.
over the first half of the year. You know, which is a little more than Sam Darnold, who has over the last month or so shown less than nothing with the Carolina Panthers, to the point where now they want to get in on the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes. But at the same time, if the Panthers tried to make that move, how does that salary cap work? They've already picked up Darnold's option for next year,
Mhm.
to the tune of 18 million, which is exactly why the Jets let him go. So Panthers are already locked in for that. How are you going to fit under the cap with that and Watson and give up the ridiculous amount of draft capital to do that?
I don't think they'll do it. I think it's just talk.
Yeah, the only place Watson might go, Watson isn't going anywhere other than the bench anytime soon.
I think a lot of these teams that are saying Watson, they're floating the balloon to see what the sports radio in their town says. And then the sports radio in their town is probably going, no. And they're going, it's going to be hard enough to fit him in, and people don't want this guy. Like I don't think teams want him. I know as an Eagle fan, I don't want him to come in and replace Hurts, and I hate Hurts. I'm a Minshew Magic kind of guy, so let me get some Gardner Minshew in there. But obviously, there's something else going on with the Eagles. The Eagles are going to go with Hurts to see if Hurts can learn to play football. That seems to be the plan because there's no quarterback coming out of college that's going to be any better than Hurts. Maybe next year they say we gave you a full year. Maybe they put it up for a real duel between him and Minshew next year. Maybe they're in the Aaron Rodgers sweepstake next year. I don't know. But they're just riding out this Hurts train to see what happens. And they're going to do that because that's what they want to do. God bless them.
You say that there isn't a worthy replacement coming out of college, and even in the years where that happened, where you say that going into a season where there isn't, a Trevor Lawrence or an Andrew Luck, slam dunk type, or even a Sam Darnold who was highly hyped coming out of college, Baker Mayfield and the like. There's always a quarterback who comes out of nowhere and puts up a stud season in college, and he shoots to the top of the draft board. I think it's a low-key tank job by the Eagles this year. You sink or swim with Hurts. If you sink, you get a high draft pick and pick a quarterback in the draft this year. It could be, we don't even know yet. There's still half a college football season to go. There could be somebody else who jumps out of nowhere. I don't pay that much attention to college football personally, but Joe Burrow was not nationally hyped until he put up the ridiculous numbers at LSU his senior year, and he was a number one pick. So there's probably a rookie quarterback in the draft this spring who we aren't really paying attention to yet, and that could be who the Eagles end up with, especially if they could, I believe, end up with 3 first-round picks. So that's easy to package to move up in the draft and get a quarterback if they want to do so.
So usually at this point in the season, the college football season, that guy who you're talking about, Joe Burrow, that guy who's going to shoot up is shooting up, and that guy who's going to fall down is falling down. And so I can't remember the names, but I did decide today for fantasy football reasons as I'm trying to figure out what draft picks I want to trade up for, to just take a look at what the mock drafts are showing. And for guys who want football teams to build around lines, they are going to be excited at this year's draft. Like that mock draft, I think the first quarterback was number 8 or 9. Like that's crazy because you're right. There's usually some guy you never heard of, Ryan Tannehill, who pushes his way up into the top 5. And usually that's usually a sign that you should have taken him. I also show you Goff and Wentz. But those guys aren't even up there yet. I don't think that's going to happen. I think we might go. I think this year's draft coming up is going to be the most upside down, unexpected type of, oh, they're picking. Well, the guy from Oregon's going number one. He may I can't think of his name, but he's defensive lineman from Oregon. If you watch, I've seen him play 6 football plays, 6 Oregon defensive plays that were in a game, like in a row. And he was visibly amazing on all 6 of those plays. Just like the only football of them I watched, I was like, oh, this guy has a motor, and he moves like not Chase Young, slightly older draft pick than him. Can't stay on the team. Who's a defensive end, was highly touted. Had that huge helmet-to-helmet hit on the running back in the backfield. I think he was out of LSU. Then he didn't play his senior year because of injury. But this guy's like him with a motor on every play. He's going to be
Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu.
No, not Clancy. Oh my goodness. I'm going to stop talking to pull this name up, but he moves like this guy, but he has a motor like a Bosa brother.
By the way, you're starting to talk like me. You want to be real careful with stuff like that. So, all right. So we got about 10 minutes left. I want to change topic while Obie's still pulling that up. I'll give you time to get the answer so you can get that out of your system there. But right now, hockey season's underway. Basketball's underway. There was a bit of an incident that happened with regards to Kyrie Irving and some of his loyal fan base when it came to literally not charging, but a large-scale protest that ended up happening at the Barclays Center. Testament to him and his fan base. I'm not taking a stance officially one way or the other when it comes to vaccines and everything like that, but I'll leave you guys to whatever you want to do. But as far as the protest goes, do you feel that something like that would be a distraction for the team?
Yes. Everything about Kyrie is a distraction. The Nets are better off without him.
That was my next question.
Regardless of vaccine, I mean, he only plays, when he feels like it anyway. He was having him there or not didn't really make much of a difference last year for the Nets, and they've been playing just fine without him so far. Kyrie's a talented player, but all of the other distractions and nonsense is not worth it at this point. Like, I know you can't really cut him, and I've also read rumblings that if they do try to trade him, that Kyrie may just up and retire. So the Nets are kind of stuck. So at this point, you just, the Nets did the right thing and said, okay, come back when you're ready. We're moving on without you.
And go ahead.
And then you add in wacko protesters. That's who are trying to rush arena security. Just that's an absolute mess. You don't want any part of that as a distraction on your team.
Now, right now, he's getting a little over $70 million combined between this year and next year. So that's a big hit in a lot of different fronts. It's $71 million, $72 million in cap hit money. So there's a lot to be said by leaving a guy like that on the bench. But like you said, I mean, he's a distraction. It's a concern. If you trade him, the team that actually is going to be taking it, are they willing to take $35 million a year for the next 2 years? I don't think there's a team that would be willing to.
I think that they are I think it's amazing to say this, that they are in a worse position with Kyrie than the Sixers with Simmons. I just, it's amazing to say that because Kyrie's a better player all around, except for almost 3 seasons now, he hasn't even been there. College, he wasn't there. He was, the one guy he seems to hate and likes to jab at all the time is LeBron. LeBron's the guy who kept him on the court for 3 seasons straight and got him a championship in the NBA. So he needs somebody there to wrangle him. We know Durant's not that guy. No offense to Durant. He's a great player. That's just not who he is. Harden might be that guy, but I don't think Harden's that guy. So you need somebody who's going to take him by the hair and the ear and be like, come on, kid. Get on the court. And there's nobody next team to do that.
You need to find him first. You need to find him to be able to do that. He disappears for long stretches.
Right. Oh, exactly. That it's got to be. I don't know who that person is who can do that, but LeBron did it. Like, just when you look at his career, LeBron is the guy who kept him on the court and allowed him to play at his best. I mean, he's an unbelievable player. But in some ways, he's like a guy like Derrick Rose, who's had something else take him out of the game, an injury. This is a different type of thing that's taking him out of the game. But he's just constantly not there. He doesn't want to be there for whatever reason, whether it's a mental illness or a mental strength. Like, I got my money. I don't need to do this. I've been playing basketball since I was a little kid in New Jersey. I'm done with it. I did it to make money, but I don't love it. Like, that could be a thing. Like, people forget that.
And he should come out. And I don't want to discount anybody's mental health struggles. With that being said, Kyrie seems like somebody who needs to work on those issues, and he needs to seek help or seek treatment. Not be the starting point guard in the NBA, and it doesn't appear to be something that he has interest in doing right now. If you're burnt out and want to retire, then do something else, then do that. Stop stringing along your teammates, and figure out what you need to do. And he's made millions by this point, but
I think the problem is that you become a brand at that point, and walking away is such a big news situation that you lose a lot of future potential from a corporate standpoint, from a monetary standpoint. Like, you got the money and everything like that, but the problem is that it's not as easy to walk away when your reputation is going to take as big a hit as it would. If you ever actually had worked a job where you're not happy in the job, you're not happy in the job, but you have to continue to make the sacrifice anyway. His man continues to, would take that sacrifice if he just went, gone, goodbye. And I think that's a situation where he's towing a line, not sure which way to go. And as a result, you sort of just go through the motions a little bit.
I agree. As much as $30 million a year sounds like to you and me, I don't know whether that $30 million a year he's spending, if he's only spending $2 million a year, which is not, to me, does not seem like an impossibility. I feel like if I was making $2 million a year, I'd still be living paycheck to paycheck. As crazy as that sounds, I still think like that's a paycheck to paycheck salary. That only gives him, if he gets his full paycheck this year, 15 years of life to live the lifestyle he's grown accustomed to. So I think that I don't know. I'm not living in his shoes, but it feels to me there's a certain amount of how I don't want to do this anymore, but I want $70 million over the next 2 years. How do I make that work? I'll be honest. My vaccine status, they asked me at work to tell them what it was. And the penalties for not telling them what it was if we go back to the office, it's going to be more difficult for you to go back to the office, and we're going to give you free tests once a week. And part of me was like, maybe I won't say I had a vaccine either way. I'll get a free test every week. I hear they're uncomfortable, but I still know my status every week. And I have to wear a mask, which I was going to do if I went back to the office anyway. So Kyrie's issue is I don't really want to play. If I don't tell them whether I got a vaccine or not and act like I didn't, they're going to not let me play. I don't have to play, but they're going to pay me. So now because he's Kyrie, there's a lot of eyes on him. Like as you said. But
there's people who make a lot less than Kyrie Irving who have made the decision, okay, I'm going to lose my job rather than do what I need to do. I'm not taking a stance on that one way or another, but just it's hard when that's happening for people making with way less zeros in their paycheck. It's hard to feel for somebody who is making a lot more than that is doing the same decision. Meanwhile, all the fans in the arena have to be vaccinated or show whatever proof in order to get into the building to see him, and he can still do this and get paid. Yet, the average Joe Schmo in that situation, they may or may not even have a job to go back to.
Yeah, I need a better union. I mean, I can't decry him his money, and I don't know if that what I said was going on, but I'm not angry at him if that is what's going on. By the way, it was Jadeveon Clowney was the name I was looking for. He moves like Clowney, but Clowney has a motor issue where sometimes he turns it off, but he has a Bosa brother motor. He's just always moving every play.
Nice. All right, so we got about 4 minutes left at this point. I want to give you guys a couple minutes for final thoughts. We never did cover hockey tonight. That's okay. We'll cover it next time if we get to it, or very possibly forget and not do it at all. JD, I want to give you a couple of thoughts. If you got them, roll with it. What do you got?
Well, with the NHL, it's nice seeing the Devils show a bit of promise, although their starting goalie and one of their stud number 1 draft picks are hurt already.
Yes.
With Blackwood, he himself having questionable vaccine status that is apparently in the way of getting resolved.
And
but more importantly, coming back from a heel injury. Yeah. So he can hopefully come back in a few weeks. But the Devils have been playing fine with Bernier and Dawes in goalie. But having Jack Hughes back, he looks like a player who's about to have a breakout season big time. If he keeps playing like he did the first few games before his injury, then the Devils could be a playoff team this year.
Thank God. God, thank you. So, Obie, how about yourself, sir?
Scott, thank you for having me on again. Of course, we're going to talk about drinking from the garden hose. Friday night, we're doing a Halloween special. You can find me on all my Facebooks and drinking from the hose feeds. And that show, of course, will be on your Apple Podcasts afterwards. And I believe Thursday night, I'm working with you guys again on this big football game we talked about for Stream Punk Sports.
So, yes. So we'll be discussing that at length probably going forward. But, all right. So, as for myself, I've got Tales from the Film Set tonight. We're going to be doing a deep dive into a couple of different topics, one positive, one less than positive. The breakdown on what happened with the Alec Baldwin accidental shooting that happened with the death of Helena Hawkins. From my personal experience, what I've seen, what I've worked with, and some of the things that I have dealt with, and how personally, this is the only one that you heard about, but not the only one that there was. And then also, on a more positive note, because Halloween is around the corner, we're continuing our topic on the movie series, previewing the ones coming out next, the end of the trilogy, and how that one will be the 13th Halloween movie since the premiere, which actually now is more than Friday the 13th. So that'll be tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern. For myself, for Mr. Obie Spencer, and Mr. J.D. Walker, this is Tales from the Film Set. Mr. Rob Stats is unavailable today because currently he is on set with Jimmy Fallon. Respect, go that way. I have no issue there.
Sports Den, not Tales from the Film Set.
Dear God, did I say it again?
Yep. And check us out on Stream Punk Sports.
Yes. So,
easy for you to say.
Yeah. All right. So, yeah, like I said, Obie, you got to be careful. You don't want to turn into me now. We're getting a little language issue going on. But anyway, for Sports Den, I got to look at down the bottom right, the Sports Den. I'm Scott Schertzen alongside Mr. Obie Spencer and also Mr. J.D. Walker. Have a great night and be awesome. Okay. All right. So. And I took a nap before this show too to try and recharge the batteries.